Let me start with something that I think a lot of people watching this will recognize immediately. You have made the changes. You have cut back on sugar. You have watched the carbohydrates. You have been more careful at mealtimes than you were a year ago. And yet the number on the monitor, that fasting blood sugar reading you check in the morning, is still not where you and your doctor want it to be. Still creeping in a direction that concerns you. Still something you think about more than you would like. If that is your experience, I want to tell you something that I do not think you have been told clearly enough. Blood sugar regulation is not a single mechanism. It is not one dial you turn up or down by eating less of one thing. It is a system, a complex, interconnected system involving your liver, your pancreas, your gut microbiome, your cellular insulin receptors, your inflammatory pathways, your sleep quality, and your stress hormones. When that system is struggling, adjusting one component, reducing sugar intake, taking a single medication, addresses part of the problem. It does not address all of it. What I want to talk about today is something specific and something practical. There are certain drinks made from real, affordable, widely available ingredients that contain compounds with genuine, research-supported effects on specific parts of that blood sugar regulation system. Not miracle cures, not substitutes for medical care, but real nutritional tools that, used consistently alongside everything your doctor has already recommended, may support your body's ability to manage glucose more effectively. I am going to walk you through 8 of them today, ranked from least to most impactful based on the available evidence. For each one, I am going to tell you what is inside it, what the research actually shows, how to prepare it correctly, and any safety considerations you need to know, because some of these interact with medications that many older adults take, and that information matters. Before we begin, please hear this clearly. If you are managing blood sugar with medication, do not adjust your medication based on anything in this video. Do not stop taking prescribed drugs. Do not replace medical appointments with dietary changes. The drinks I am about to describe are nutritional support. They work alongside your medical care, not instead of it. If you find that your blood sugar readings are improving over time as you incorporate these drinks, that is a conversation to have with your doctor, who can then decide whether any medication adjustments are appropriate under their supervision. That is the right order of operations. Now, let us go through these 8 drinks, starting at the least impactful and working toward the most evidence-supported. Number 8, green tea. Green tea is probably the most widely consumed health drink in the world, and the research behind it is real, just more modest than its reputation suggests. The primary active compound in green tea is a catechin called EGCG. Epigallocatechin gallate. EGCG has been shown in multiple studies to support insulin sensitivity, meaning it helps cells respond more efficiently to the insulin signal that allows glucose to enter them from the bloodstream. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition found that regular green tea consumption improved fasting blood sugar by approximately 5 to 7% over the study period. That is a meaningful contribution, but it is a modest one. Green tea is better understood as a protective, maintenance-level support than as an active glucose-lowering intervention. It helps keep things from worsening. It reduces the oxidative stress that damages blood vessel walls over time. It provides consistent, gentle support to insulin sensitivity. The reason it ranks 8th is not because it does not work. It does, at the level the evidence supports. It ranks 8th because the other drinks on this list tend to show stronger effects on the specific mechanisms behind elevated blood sugar. How to prepare it for maximum benefit. Use loose-leaf green tea if possible, which generally provides a more concentrated dose of EGCG than bagged tea. Steep for 3 to 4 minutes in water that is approximately 75 to 80 degrees Celsius, just below boiling. Water that is too hot damages the catechins and reduces the bioavailability of the active compounds. Drink it plain. Adding sugar or honey cancels out the blood sugar benefit entirely. If you find plain green tea too bitter at this temperature, try a slightly shorter steep time. One practical note for anyone over 60. Green tea contains caffeine, though less than coffee. If you are sensitive to caffeine or have difficulty sleeping, drink it earlier in the day rather than in the evening. Number 7. Apple cider vinegar in warm water. Apple cider vinegar has accumulated an enormous amount of health mythology online, claims that range from well-supported to entirely fabricated. For blood sugar specifically, there is a legitimate mechanism worth understanding. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, which slows gastric emptying, the rate at which food leaves your stomach and enters your small intestine where glucose is absorbed. When food moves more slowly through your digestive system, glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually, rather than in a rapid spike. This blunted glucose response after meals is the primary mechanism by which apple cider vinegar influences blood sugar. A study published in Diabetes Care found that taking apple cider vinegar before a meal or before bed produced approximately a 4 to 6% reduction in fasting glucose in participants who used it consistently over several weeks. The effect was real, but required sustained consistency. Missing several days appeared to reduce the benefit significantly. The cautions here are important, and I want to be direct about them. Acetic acid is hard on tooth enamel and on the esophagus. For anyone with acid reflux, GERD, gastritis, or any history of esophageal issues, apple cider vinegar can worsen those conditions. If that describes you, this is one to discuss with your doctor before trying. If you do use it, 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, in 8 ounces of warm water. Drink it through a straw to minimize contact with tooth enamel. Do not take it on an empty stomach. The warm water matters. It dilutes the acidity and makes it more comfortable to drink. Given the esophageal caution, I would suggest this is one of the lower risk drinks to skip if you have any digestive sensitivities, as the drinks higher on this list generally show stronger effects with fewer gastrointestinal concerns. Number 6. Chamomile and cinnamon tea. This combination is where we start to see more clinically interesting effects, and it works through 2 distinct mechanisms simultaneously. Chamomile contains a flavonoid called apigenin, which has a documented calming effect on the nervous system. Here is why that matters directly for blood sugar. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, has a direct effect on your liver, signaling it to release stored glucose into the bloodstream. This is a survival mechanism from our evolutionary past. In a moment of stress, your body wants fuel immediately available. But in a modern older adult experiencing chronic low-grade stress or poor sleep, elevated cortisol at night means the liver is continuously releasing glucose during the overnight hours. This is one of the primary drivers of elevated fasting blood sugar in the morning, the reading you check when you wake up, even in people who ate carefully the night before. A study in the Journal of Endocrinology found that reducing nighttime cortisol was associated with meaningfully lower overnight glucose elevation. Chamomile, by supporting the relaxation response before sleep, can contribute to reducing that cortisol-driven overnight glucose release. It is a gentle but genuine effect. Ceylon cinnamon, and I want to be specific about the variety here because it matters, contains a compound called cinnamaldehyde, which research suggests can mimic certain aspects of insulin action at the cellular level, helping cells absorb glucose more effectively. The clinical evidence for Ceylon cinnamon's effect on blood sugar is moderate but consistent across multiple small trials. The reason I am emphasizing Ceylon specifically is that the cinnamon sold in most grocery stores is cassia cinnamon, a different variety that contains high levels of a compound called coumarin. At low doses, coumarin is not harmful, but consumed daily over months and years, high coumarin intake has been associated with liver stress. For someone whose liver is already working hard to manage glucose metabolism, that is worth avoiding. Ceylon cinnamon is available at most health food stores and many supermarkets. It has a lighter, more delicate flavor than cassia and is entirely safe for daily use. Preparation. 1 chamomile tea bag or a teaspoon of dried chamomile flowers, 1 Ceylon cinnamon stick or half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powder, steeped for 7 minutes in just boiled water. Drink it warm approximately 30 minutes before bed. The combination is genuinely pleasant, mild, slightly sweet, easy to make part of an evening routine. Number 5. Tart cherry juice. Tart cherries most commonly appear in conversations about sleep and joint pain. Their effect on blood sugar is less well known, but meaningfully supported by research. Tart cherries, specifically the Montmorency variety, are among the richest dietary sources of anthocyanins, the deeply pigmented plant compounds that give them their color. Anthocyanins have been studied extensively for their effects on insulin sensitivity, and a meta-analysis in critical reviews in food science and nutrition found that anthocyanin-rich foods improved insulin sensitivity by approximately 19 to 23% over 8 weeks of consistent consumption. The mechanism involves the anthocyanins interacting with insulin receptors on cell surfaces, improving the cell's responsiveness to the insulin signal. What makes tart cherry additionally useful in the context of evening blood sugar management is the sleep dimension. Tart cherries are one of the few foods containing meaningful amounts of melatonin, and several studies have shown that regular consumption improves sleep depth and duration. And the relationship between sleep quality and blood sugar regulation is well established and clinically significant. Inadequate deep sleep impairs insulin sensitivity the following day, consistently and measurably. Supporting sleep quality through tart cherry is therefore supporting blood sugar management through a second independent pathway. The critical preparation note: most commercially available tart cherry juice contains significant amounts of added sugar, which entirely defeats the purpose. You want 100% pure, unsweetened tart cherry juice or tart cherry concentrate with no added sweeteners. A teaspoon of concentrate diluted in 6 ounces of water is the practical preparation. Drink it 30 minutes before bed. The flavor is sharp and tart. A few drops of liquid stevia takes the edge off without affecting blood sugar. Number 4. Ginger, lemon, and a pinch of cayenne in warm water. This combination works through a mechanism that is somewhat different from the others on this list, and understanding it requires a brief explanation of what happens to blood vessels when blood sugar is elevated over time. One of the most damaging processes in long-term elevated blood sugar is something called glycation, the binding of glucose molecules to proteins in blood vessel walls. Over time, glycation stiffens blood vessels, reduces their flexibility, and impairs the circulation to smaller blood vessels, including those supplying the nerves in the feet and legs. This is the mechanism behind the peripheral circulation issues and the sensory changes that many people with long-term elevated blood sugar experience. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogals, which have demonstrated vasodilatory effects. They support the relaxation and widening of blood vessels, improving blood flow. A study in the International Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition found that regular ginger consumption improved fasting blood sugar by a clinically meaningful margin over 8 weeks. And there is also evidence for ginger's anti-inflammatory effects on the blood vessel lining itself. Cayenne pepper contains capsaicin, which supports peripheral circulation, blood flow to the extremities. And lemon provides vitamin C, which plays a role in maintaining the structural integrity of blood vessel walls and supports the body's natural antioxidant defenses against oxidative damage. Together, this combination addresses the vascular dimension of blood sugar management, the circulatory health of the small vessels, in a way that complements the cellular and hepatic mechanisms of the other drinks. Preparation: a thumb of fresh ginger, grated or thinly sliced, the juice of half a fresh lemon, and a small pinch of cayenne in a cup of hot water. Steep for 5 minutes. Drink it warm 30 minutes before bed. Start with a genuinely small amount of cayenne, a very small pinch, and build up gradually as your stomach adjusts. For anyone on anticoagulant medication including warfarin, rivaroxaban, or aspirin therapy, Please speak with your doctor before using this drink regularly. Both ginger and cayenne have mild blood-thinning properties that can add to the effect of anticoagulant medications, and that interaction is worth medical supervision. Number 3. Fenugreek seed and Ceylon cinnamon tea. Fenugreek is a food and medicinal herb with a long history in traditional Ayurvedic medicine, specifically for blood sugar management, and the modern research behind it for this purpose is among the more compelling in this list. Fenugreek seeds contain a specific amino acid called 4-hydroxyisoleucine, which has an unusual property. It appears to stimulate insulin secretion from the pancreas selectively, meaning it promotes insulin release in response to elevated blood glucose, but not under normal blood sugar conditions. This responsive, conditional effect is clinically significant because it suggests a lower risk of driving blood sugar too low compared to some pharmaceutical interventions that stimulate insulin regardless of current glucose levels. A study in the European Journal of Clinical Pharmacology found that regular fenugreek seed consumption produced a meaningful reduction in fasting glucose over 8 weeks of consistent use. Fenugreek also contains a high amount of soluble fiber, which slows the absorption of glucose from the gut after meals, a second complementary mechanism. Combined with Ceylon cinnamon, which supports cellular insulin sensitivity through cinnamaldehyde, this tea targets both insulin production from the pancreas and cellular glucose uptake simultaneously. 2 mechanisms, 1 drink. Preparation. Soak 2 teaspoons of fenugreek seeds in hot water for 10 minutes. Add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powder or a small Ceylon cinnamon stick. Drink it warm approximately 45 minutes before bed. The flavor is bitter and earthy. This is one of the more challenging drinks on the list from a palatability standpoint. A small amount of raw honey can make it more pleasant without meaningfully impacting blood sugar at the dose involved. The bitterness is real, but for many people, the consistency becomes easier once it is part of a regular evening routine. If you are on diabetes medication, particularly metformin or insulin, monitor your blood sugar when you add this drink to your routine, as the combined effect may be stronger than either intervention alone. This is exactly the kind of change to have on your doctor's radar. Number 2. Dandelion root, ginger, and lemon tea. This combination ranks second on this list for a reason that relates to an aspect of blood sugar regulation that does not receive enough attention in general health discussions. Your liver plays a central role in blood sugar management. Between meals and overnight, it is responsible for releasing stored glucose into the bloodstream to maintain stable energy levels, a process called hepatic glucose output. In people with insulin resistance, this process can become dysregulated. The liver continues releasing glucose even when blood sugar is already elevated, because it has become less responsive to the insulin signal that would normally tell it to stop. This is one of the key drivers of elevated fasting blood sugar in the morning. The liver has been releasing glucose through the night in a less regulated way. Dandelion root contains compounds, including taraxacin and sesquiterpene lactones, that support liver function and bile production, which is involved in how the liver processes and clears glucose. A study in the Review of Diabetic Studies found that dandelion extract showed meaningful improvements in hepatic glucose processing in controlled research. Supporting liver health directly is one of the most underutilized strategies in dietary blood sugar management. Combined with fresh ginger for its blood vessel and anti-inflammatory support, and lemon for vitamin C and flavonoids, this tea provides a comprehensive approach that addresses the liver, the gut, and the vascular system in a single preparation. Preparation: 1 teaspoon of dried dandelion root, available at health food stores and online. A half-inch slice of fresh ginger and the juice of half a lemon, steeped in boiling water for 12 minutes. Drink it promptly after steeping. The active compounds in dandelion root begin to degrade relatively quickly after preparation. Drink it warm. Dandelion root is generally very well tolerated. However, if you are taking diuretic medications, speak with your doctor first. Dandelion has mild natural diuretic properties that may compound the effect. And as always, with any new addition to your routine, if you are on multiple medications for blood sugar or cardiovascular conditions, a brief conversation with your pharmacist about interactions is a sensible step. And now, number 1, turmeric golden milk. I want to take a moment before I describe this drink to explain why it ranks first. Because the reason is not simply that it contains the most potent single compound. It is that the research behind golden milk shows evidence of beneficial effects on multiple distinct systems involved in blood sugar regulation simultaneously. Most drinks on this list have a primary mechanism. Golden milk has several, working in parallel. The foundation of golden milk is curcumin, the primary bioactive compound in turmeric. Curcumin has been one of the most extensively researched natural compounds in metabolic medicine over the past 2 decades, and the findings across multiple areas are consistent and compelling. Curcumin has been shown to reduce insulin resistance at the cellular level, improving the responsiveness of insulin receptors so that cells can take up glucose more efficiently. It has significant anti-inflammatory effects on the pancreatic tissue itself, which matters because chronic inflammation in and around the pancreas impairs the beta cells responsible for producing insulin. It supports the gut lining, which plays a role in glucose absorption and in the gut-brain axis that influences insulin signaling. And it reduces systemic inflammatory markers that drive many of the vascular complications associated with elevated blood sugar over time. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that older adults who consumed curcumin daily for 9 weeks showed meaningful improvements in fasting glucose, insulin sensitivity, and inflammatory markers compared to a placebo group. The effect sizes were clinically meaningful, not dramatic enough to replace medication in someone with significant insulin resistance, but meaningful as a consistent dietary support. Now, here is the most important thing I can tell you about golden milk, and it is the thing that most people who try turmeric and notice no benefit have got wrong. Curcumin on its own is very poorly absorbed by the human body. The vast majority of it passes through the digestive system without entering the bloodstream in meaningful amounts. Bioavailability, the amount that actually reaches your tissues and produces an effect, is the critical variable. There are 2 things that dramatically increase curcumin bioavailability. The first is piperine, the compound in black pepper. Research has shown that piperine increases curcumin absorption by up to 20 times by inhibiting the metabolic pathways that would otherwise break it down too quickly. This is not a small effect. Turmeric consumed without black pepper delivers a fraction of the benefit of turmeric consumed with it. The amount needed is genuinely small. A generous crack of black pepper, or approximately a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper per cup, is sufficient. The second is fat. Curcumin is fat-soluble. It dissolves and is absorbed alongside dietary fat. Preparing golden milk with a fat-containing milk, whole dairy milk, full-fat coconut milk, or unsweetened almond milk with a small amount of added coconut oil or ghee significantly improves absorption compared to using a fat-free liquid. The recipe: 1 cup of warm milk of your choice, 1 teaspoon of pure turmeric powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, a generous crack of black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of coconut oil or a small knob of ghee. Whisk everything together in warm, not boiling, milk. Boiling damages some of the active compounds and is unnecessary for dissolving the spices. Drink it warm approximately 30 minutes before bed. Choose pure turmeric powder with no added fillers, colorings, or anti-caking agents. The label should read 1 ingredient, turmeric. Many commercial turmeric products contain additives that add nothing nutritionally, and in some cases may interfere with absorption. One safety note that I want to be clear about: turmeric has mild anticoagulant properties. If you are taking warfarin, rivaroxaban, apixaban, aspirin therapy, or any other blood-thinning medication, please speak with your doctor before drinking golden milk regularly. This is a real interaction that warrants medical awareness, not a theoretical one. For the vast majority of healthy older adults not on anticoagulant therapy, Golden milk at this preparation is well tolerated and safe for daily use. The most common side effect is temporary yellowing of the stool, which is harmless and simply reflects the turmeric passing through your system. Now let me bring all of this together practically, because I want you to leave this video with something you can actually implement, not an overwhelming list of 8 things to do every day. Start with golden milk every evening. 1 cup, 30 minutes before bed, every night. That is your foundation. It is the drink with the broadest evidence base and the most comprehensive mechanism. Add black pepper. Use a fat-containing milk. Those 2 details determine whether you get the full benefit or very little of it. If your primary concern includes morning fasting glucose and you suspect stress or sleep quality is a factor, add the chamomile and Ceylon cinnamon tea a few nights per week as a complement. If circulation and vascular health are a particular concern, incorporate the ginger, lemon, and cayenne water several times a week, earlier in the evening rather than immediately before bed. Give this a consistent 4 to 6 weeks before assessing the effect. Dietary changes to metabolic systems do not produce results in 3 days. They work gradually, as the underlying biochemistry shifts over time. The people who see the most benefit are the ones who make this a genuine daily habit, as consistent as taking a medication, rather than something they try for a week and then abandon. Monitor your blood sugar during this period with whatever monitoring system your doctor has recommended. Keep a simple log. If you are seeing changes that your doctor should know about, in either direction, bring it to your next appointment. These drinks are designed to work with your medical care. Your doctor is your partner in this, not an obstacle to it. One final thought before I close. Blood sugar management after 60 is genuinely difficult. Not because your body has failed, not because you have done something wrong, but because the system is complex, and the dietary environment most of us live in, processed foods, refined carbohydrates, chronic stress, disrupted sleep, places consistent pressure on mechanisms that were not designed for it. Adding back the specific plant compounds that support those mechanisms is not a radical intervention. It is, in many ways, a return to the way human beings ate for most of their history, with turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, fenugreek, and bitter herbs as regular parts of daily food rather than exotic additions. These drinks are not magic. They are biochemistry. Real compounds with real mechanisms supported by real research working on real systems in your body. Used consistently alongside proper medical care, adequate sleep, physical activity, and thoughtful eating, they contribute to a comprehensive approach that gives your blood sugar management system the best possible conditions to do its job. Start tonight if you can. 1 cup of golden milk. Turmeric, black pepper, Ceylon cinnamon, warm milk, a small amount of fat. 30 minutes before bed. That is where it begins. If this was useful to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone in your life who is managing blood sugar and looking for every evidence-backed tool available to them. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 8 drinks you are going to start with. I read every comment, and your experience genuinely helps shape what I cover next. I am Dr. Julian Cross. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.